Welcome into episode 4 of Gridiron Minds. I am your host, Jordan Vanek. As always, I'm joined by Jeff DiMatteo. I'm a little bit under the weather, so if my voice is struggling, just know had a little bit of a cold this week after a great weekend, to say the least. As you can see, I'm wearing a Josh Allen jersey because Josh Allen helped me take down 2nd, 5th, and 20th in a contest, and I hope to repeat that success this week. We got a big 12-game slate, but if you're new to the show, we are trying to break down some prospects before we get into the DFS. So we're going to start with the tight end position. Jeff, how much do you love, what are your thoughts on this tight end?
This class at large, I think, is a little more underwhelming than a lot of fantasy folks would like you to believe. The group has a couple of guys at the top that are interesting. Tyler Warren is a legit tight end. He'll be an NFL player. He'll be a starter. I love this guy in a San Francisco-style scheme where he could actually displace guys like Kittle and Juszczyk as a singular player. He can line up in the backfield. He can do all the move stuff. He can also go in line. The guy is a salty blocker, and he runs around looking to hurt somebody if he's out there leading in the run game. And he's a great receiver. He does a nice job getting open, especially when the quarterback's in scramble mode. He's really spent a lot of time making Drew Aller look a lot better than he really is. And truthfully, if they threw to him every time he was open, the guy would have 130 catches this year. It seems like he is always open. He's not Brock Bowers. It's not one of those situations, but this is a guy that, hey, I'm happy to take him in the middle of the second round here of a rookie draft.
So if I could get Tyler Warren anywhere, I want him with the Broncos. It would be the end of the first because they're probably going to be that wild card team, I think, in the playoffs, and get him to a team that clearly has no tight end in front of him. Like, he is better. He's in day one, he's the number one tight end. He's got Sean Payton, obviously, a creative offensive mind, was part of the Taysom Hill, trying to figure out what to do with him. And Tyler Warren, DFS-wise in college football, he's hurt me all year because he's inevitable as a 20-point scorer. It's like he will go throw a touchdown, he will run for 60 yards and score 2. Like, Penn State basically made him their offense. And a lot of people, my biggest pet peeves when it comes to draft day and just talking about these prospects is, when did you break out? I do not care that he broke out so late. I don't care. What does he do today that he is incapable of doing 2 years? Ronald Jones was a early breakout. Great 20-year-old commit. Went in the second round. Does that mean he's better than the 4-year Derrick Henry? No, I don't really care. Like, who is the better prospect? Who is the better player? Tyler Warren is one of those prospects that he's not Brock Bowers. He's not to that echelon of player, but like you mentioned, he could develop into some of that, obviously if he gets paired to the 49ers or a Sean Payton and some of that foundation where these teams you can see that upward trajectory, then I would like to see him, he could be that producer in fantasy. Maybe, for the Broncos, he would walk in and probably be second on the team in targets. Like, you'd probably put him 2 behind Courtland Sutton, and that's a great spot for him with Bo Nix. Give him someone that can give him yak, and let Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims take everything deep. Is there anybody else in the class that you like?
I think it's more interesting, more than I like. I have some more work to do on a couple of these guys. Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green is a really interesting player. This guy is going to be a size, speed kind of specimen. Looks like a 6-ish guy on film, kind of like a slower version of a Kyle Pitts. Doesn't block terribly well. Yeah, he can man up on a corner or a safety down the field. That's fine. And he'll block enough. Is he willing? Yeah, it's up for debate. But great hands. The guy can catch the ball like a receiver. You can split him out. I've seen a lot of people talk about his route tree and how advanced it is. I don't really see that. They talk about where he is with his stem point. I think a lot of that is he's getting more cushion than people realize simply because of his speed. They don't want him breaking on a corner or a post or getting behind a guy in man or getting behind a safety in zone. So they usually will give him a big cushion, force him to break underneath. So it looks like he's running a better route than he really is. Really kind of unpolished player, athletic specimen, could be worth a flyer in a rookie draft somewhere. Really want to see what he does with the combine. I think he'll end up being the tight end star, in Indy.
Yeah, I had him kind of looked at as like a Jonnu Smith, where I want him in an offense that's going to try to get him designed to yak and let him be that playmaker. That Texas A&M game is going to be the one that highlights his film best because he went bonkers against a very talented secondary over at Texas A&M with Elko, and he can definitely be that receiving tight end, which is what you want in fantasy, but expectations have to be dropped because rookie tight end development or tight end development in general it's one of the hardest positions in sports. You're learning how to block, you're learning how to run, you're learning how to like play the offense in two different ways that receivers don't have to go through. And quite frankly, like tight ends in the National Football League, it just takes some time for guys like this, especially ones from lower level schools. And yeah, you can tell me that a lower level guy can perform, but doing it against bigger competition is going to matter. It's going to set you up for success day one, which is why we both thought very highly of Brock Bowers, because doing it at Georgia against Alabama and some of the players that he had to face, or doing it at Georgia against some of the players he had to face, it showed, wow, this kid is an 18-year-old dominating in the SEC. Oh, wow, this kid is 21, still dominating the SEC, doing it with a different quarterback. Like, he was unreal. And yeah, this tight end class, not much to love. I do like some of the guys going to the Senior Bowl because I think their frame and size can produce at the next level. We're just going to have to wait and see what some of those guys do. Jake Brenningstool is probably one of my favorite out of Clemson. But anything else to add there, Jeff?
No, man, I'm sure we'll talk more about those Senior Bowl guys though come January. I suspect we'll do a Senior Bowl special on some level.
Man, no, I can't wait for that event. Hopefully, media credentials and everything check out, and we'll both be down there talking some ball. I found myself getting high on some guys throughout the years: Tank Dell, Devontavian Wicks. This past year, Loudon McConkey, Ricky Pearsall. I think we talked about Quinyon Mitchell a little bit. It was Bo Nix was there. You came away very impressed with him after telling me how much you hated him while watching his film, which was
It's a
always
strong word. Come on now.
you didn't like him.
He
You,
moved
you
up my
did not
board
like Bo
singing.
Nix. You're like, I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't love him
No.
as much as other people did, but he moved up past Penix and he moved into that echelon where when I got to understand who he was as a player and understand his football IQ a lot more by a couple of short conversations, seeing the way he interacts in the field, yeah, it changed my view of him. So yeah, being there is really important. But hey, Jim Nagy, Molly Middleton, if you guys are watching, we've got some submitted applications.
Yes, that would be fantastic. But they Bo Nix also, I don't know if you saw the Kenny Dillingham interview with Barstool he did with Big Cat and PFT, and he talked about Bo Nix, and one of the things that he loved was Bo Nix wasn't afraid to question the play call. A lot of OCs get a little bit weird when your quarterback's questioning what you're calling. Kenny Dillingham's like, I loved it. It allowed me to explain to him why I'm doing this. And I also got to listen because I am never going to be the smartest man in the room. And that Arizona State program, I'm very excited to see what he brings out of it because I just one of those feisty, just, under the radar guys in college football as a head coach that you'll see in this college football playoff what they can do. Not exactly going to pick them when they probably face off against, I think, Texas is what it's going to be. But would it surprise me if they made that a game? Like, I know Texas's secondary is elite. Cam Scatabo can run through that defense. I know how good their D-line and their guys are. Scatabo is a different type of back, man. I don't...
Yeah, watching him torch the Cyclones way he did, you actually give me a little PTSD right now. I can't even get the letters right. I'm so upset about it still. But that's not the matchup that people are tuning in for. We should probably talk about some of these other matchups. What about like Washington, New Orleans here? I know we're trying to find some players here. We're trying to figure out some DFS lineups. Tell me about this. I know you're into Jaden this week. Let's hit it.
Yeah, so Jane Daniels is actually one of my favorite quarterbacks for this upcoming week because people are paying down at quarterback this week. Everybody doesn't want to get up to these top tier guys because there's a lot of 6K running backs and other guys that we'll get into throughout the show. Brian Robinson is one of those 6K running backs that is in a phenomenal matchup against New Orleans. The way that the Commanders play offense, like they run the ball a lot recently, but off the bye week, you need that Jaden Daniels we saw in the beginning of the year to show up again. And there's no better way to do it against a defense that lives in man coverage. So you can call these deep shots and say, hey, if it's there, take it. If it's not, run. And Jaden Daniels paired with Terry McLaurin is easy to put in a lineup, and you don't have to run it back. Like, the Commanders are a good defense. I do not want to necessarily stack against this game or make it this onslaught. I want everybody, I think it's going to be a 45 to 42 type of game. I think this game is a game where it could be 35 to 10. And Jaden Daniels has 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. You see 60 to 70 rushing yards, 280 passing. Like, it's a very feasible game against, the Saints. We're also getting that time of the year where weather is going to impact a lot of these games, especially with the wind conditions and different things in some games that I'll try to highlight if I can recall. Obviously, doing this on Friday, so don't necessarily believe all the forecasts yet, but I just know that outside in Cleveland or Kansas City, Philadelphia, like these places can get really ugly at this time of year. NOLA's that comforting dome. The Saints are obviously bad defense. They've been a bad defense for recent weeks, and Jaden Daniels doesn't have Noah Brown to really throw to anymore. He's out, obviously, a kidney issue. Their replacements are a rotation, so it's just Terry McLaurin's going to get 10 to 12 targets in this game. Huge target share. It's just, can Jaden Daniels give you that rushing upside? And against this Saints defense, their edge rushers can't contain him. And I think it's a great spot for him to get back to that Rookie of the Year conversation.
So with Noah Brown being, do we think there's a chance that $3,100 Luke McCaffrey could get a few grabs this week? Is that a sneaky guy we can plug into a weird lineup?
So I thought a lot about it. They run so much 12 and 21. They like to go and spread you past the hashes and give you that light box versus a bigger front. And like the 21 with Jeremy McNichols, and they have, I think it was Chris Rodriguez ran for like 90 yards against the Titans last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, there is strange personnel usage. Like, I would love to say that Luke McCaffrey is stepping in and should be played more. Like, he can be stacked if you're really looking at 3,100. I honestly don't think I'd play Terry with him, because the reason I don't want to double here if you're going to play the Luke is Luke's path to being the guy is if he steals that touchdown. And yes, I said, Jaden could throw for 300 and whatever. Terry at 70, I think he's 7,200. He's got to put up 130 and 2, 120 and 1. If Terry McLaurin goes out there and gets 100 yards, that's not good enough. He has to be the guy scoring the touchdown. He has to be that big playmaker. He's not going to get there off receptions because the volume just shouldn't be there. So Luke would be a guy
Can we trust that?
Can we trust the volume?
That McLaurin's going to get can we trust McLaurin getting $120 in the touchdown? Because I feel like the odds of it getting vultured by a McCaffrey or an Ertz or one of the running backs or even a rushing touchdown from Jaden Daniels feels so high to me. Like, maybe I'm mistaken on this, but feels funky.
If they scored, they would have to score 35. That would be the pathway for McLaurin. Because if they score 35, then I think McLaurin can get 120 and at least 1, which that's perfectly paid. And then Jaden Daniels, if he gets 2 to 3 rushing touchdowns, that's fine. Like, Khalil Shakir last week would probably, obviously what Josh Allen did was ridiculous. First player to, I think, score 6 touchdowns in a game and lose. Jaden Daniels is in a spot where he could put up 4 to 5 here. Get back in the rookie MVP conversation. In the last 2 games with McLaurin, he's had 70 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 102 and a touchdown against the Cowboys off of 1 broken play. Against the Titans, 8 targets, 8 catches, 73 and 2. So if that turned into 9 for 102, that's perfect. And getting Jaden Daniels, hopefully getting rushing touchdowns as well, would pay both of that off. But Brian Robinson's also a great play. Getting to that stack is nice, but Brian Robinson is the Saints run defense, and the way that they're going to have to defend this is going to be a nightmare. It's the running quarterback aspect is always going to give teams issues. And early this season, with no A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith got knocked out in the game. Saquon Barkley ran for 175. Wouldn't surprise me if B-Rob gets 119 and 2. Like he's not Saquon level, but 119, 110 and 2, because Jane Daniels is a little bit more of a threat as a runner than Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts has more power, but you're just worried as a DN if you break containment. I feel like you could take a step inside against Jalen and still catch him on the outside.
Got it. So I'm just looking at the implied totals here from Vegas, and I'm seeing 25.5 for Washington. So we're basically taking overs with Washington this week. I'm for it. How about we talk about one of Washington's primary rivals here? We've got the Cowboys going into Carolina. I've been saying it for like 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row. Carolina win. Come on, man. Bryce Young's been we keep seeing it just get a little better every week. I don't see him here in your show notes. You're talking about some other guys. Take me through the game. Why am I not playing Bryce Young right now against a Cowboys defense that's missing all kinds of people?
First off, we're favorites. We're favorites for the first time since 2022. This Cowboys front is so bad. Mario Overshown just had an awful knee injury. Hope he's okay. Like this, when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, I'd never seen a guy as fast as him as a linebacker. It's insane, his instincts.
Love him so much.
We have Chuba Hubbard chalk week. He's playing in a spot where our guards are going to dismantle the Cowboys front. Like, they are not ready for Robert Hunt and Cade Mays and Damian Lewis to just bulldoze them forward. And Chuba, he hasn't been efficient lately. He's averaging like 3.5 yards per carry, but Philly with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Tampa Bay with Vita Vea, I think Elijah Cansey. But Tampa Bay's scheme is always about stopping the run. This is the first game where I think Carolina's put in a position where like they can thrive on the run and not make Bryce Young the passer that he's had to be in recent weeks. I think this game gets treated similarly to that Giants game in Germany, where Bryce is great. He performs really well. But you're looking at a 200-yard game. Like, he may add 20 yards rushing. And if he throws 2 touchdowns, that's not enough for GPPs. That's just not enough to get it done and not what you're looking for, especially with Chuba being chalk. I do like Adam Thielen a lot this week, because if you don't think Carolina is going to get out to that lead against Dallas, going a Rico Dowdle, Adam Thielen mini is a good way to be a little bit contrarian this week and still encapsulate like that upside. Adam Thielen has had, I think, back-to-back games over 100 yards. He's been clearly Bryce Young's number one player. He was destroying Cooper DeJean, and we saw the Cowboys. Obviously, it's Jamar Chase, but Cowboys were getting routed by Jamar Chase. It wasn't just Jamar Chase catching slants and going upfield. He was beating them on routes, and Adam Thielen has been, since he's come back, he's been phenomenal. Like, I love Thielen, and I think that he's going overlooked this week. He's under 10% owned. Bryce Young is coming in at 9%, which is 3 times more than Josh Allen this week, just so everybody's aware. Crazy that we're paying so low for a quarterback. I have no interest in CeeDee Lamb, by the way. AC joint, I think he has an issue there, and we bottle up number ones really well when they're built like CeeDee. Like, not so much the Mike Evans or the Jamar Chase type players. CeeDee Lamb's a little bit more finesse skill, and Cooper Rush at quarterback makes me have no interest.
Okay, so you're hooked on a Thielen. Got it. We'll stick with that. The Thielen I'm getting right now, though, is cold because our next game's in Cleveland. We've got the Chiefs and the Browns. I know it's early. It's Friday, so it's hard to kind of get a beat on the weather report here. But what are we seeing? What are the early reports here?
So I think it was the wind could be an issue. If the wind stays if it goes to like the bad 25-mile-an-hour winds, that's when I'd really be worthy. If it stays into like the 10 to 15-mile-an-hour winds, I'm not going to have a problem with Jameis or Mahomes. Both of these guys can throw football in that type of weather. The biggest worry I have is Cleveland's starting to get beat up at their primary pass catchers. David Njoku's questionable for this game. Cedric Tillman's still out with a concussion. If both of those guys are out, I'm worried about Jameis getting it done with just Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. Like, in the red zone in particular, David Njoku does so much during that part of the field. And if he was out, then they really don't have the red zone guy that I think is needed against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who are already one of the best red zone defenses in football. But as far as the pass catchers go, Judy and Elijah Moore are great plays. I don't love the price point of Judy at the very moment because Kansas City does do a great job of game planning for your number one option. And recently, the Chiefs have not been able to defend the slot. That's the one area of the field that they've struggled with. Elijah Moore gets most of his targets from the slot. Jerry's taken quite a few as well in recent weeks because they're moving him around. They're treating him as truly the number one receiver in this offense. So on Cleveland's side of the ball, I like Elijah Moore. I like Judy. If Njoku plays, I don't mind the Jameis stacks because I think that gives him that needed piece in the red zone that I think he could be efficient in that area of the field. If he doesn't, I can't imagine I go to Jameis and actually have interest in Mahomes this week. It's one of those games where they're off the bye. Or no, not off the bye. Did they survive last week on another field goal? I think they did. I think they played the Chargers. So they played the Chargers. Yeah. They have the last minute field goal. Hollywood Brown comes to practice. Hopefully he's going to be a guy for best ball championships. But Cleveland's been the worst team in the NFL at defending the deep ball. They've given up the most touchdowns on go routes. They just get a lot of broken coverages where guys end up just running free or just players playing the ball incorrectly, like the Marvin Mims touchdown with Bo Nix for like 96 yards. Mahomes has had so many opportunities with Xavier Worthy down the field. It has been there all season long. The Xavier Worthy disappointment is not on him. He has been fine. He has been everything I expected him to be as a route runner and as a playmaker. Mahomes has been the issue. And the O-line obviously doesn't exactly help. They've been hit or miss for a lot of the weeks on the edges. But down the field, Worthy is open. Mahomes has missed him for probably 600 yards this year, if I had to say. Obviously, you're not supposed to go 100% on those passes, but that's still so many yards. And if he catches them, it's pretty much 6 every single time because he's got 3 or 4 steps on the guys. If they connect this week, Mahomes to Worthy, it's 11-8 combined. Like Worthy's 5,100. He's 2% owned in GPPs. I think he would be one of the guys that I love to get different with this week because he's still playing the most snaps. He's still running the most routes. He's getting targets down the field. It just has yet to click. This week is probably the best spot for it to click. And if it doesn't, Hollywood returns. I don't know if we see it click because Hollywood could just end up being, for whatever reason, the guy that ends up working out for Mahomes as we get into the playoffs. Hopefully, they actually try to get to that spark because right now, I don't think the Chiefs can. The current state of the Chiefs, they're not winning the Super Bowl. They have to hit that stride. They did last year, and they did it at around this time of the year. But if they don't, they're not winning. They're not beating Buffalo, with Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Like, these teams are just have more firepower, and I know the Chiefs can obviously win one of those games. I just don't see them, winning both. I don't know how you feel about the Chiefs right now.
It's hard for me to invest in the Chiefs because usually they're one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. But we haven't seen enough of that this year, and so I'm like, I'll play Kelsey here and there because I know he's going to get his looks, right? Here's the question I have, and I think a lot of folks out there may have it, not just for DFS, but for their season-long matchups if they're in the playoffs. What do we make of Isaiah Pacheco this week? How much of a timeshare is he going to be with Kareem Hunt? Can we go back to playing this guy or what?
I think this is a week where he gets a lot more touches. I mean, it was always going to be a steady increase. Like, he is the better back, but it was just right off injury. Kareem Hunt had played well. Andy Reid just doesn't swap guys like that unless it's clear, like a Carson Steele to a Pacheco. But Kareem Hunt deserves a role still in this offense. I think this week he probably gets, I'd say 60 to 65% of the backfield. I don't think he gets to the way he was used in the beginning because I think Kareem Hunt has played well enough to maintain a 30% role of this offense.
Okay. All right, so let's, the weather outside in Cleveland is frightful. Let's go back inside where it's a bit more delightful. Miami and Houston, we're back in a dome at least. Do we love Tua this week?
I do. I'm coming along to Tua at a high rate in the last probably few hours, to be honest. The Jalen Petrie news started to settle in for me. Him being out for the season is just a significant loss because it's a communication on the back end too. He was the guy that I think Jimmy Ward is also out for the year, if I'm not mistaken. And both of those guys. Okay, so so regardless, before Jalen Petrie has gone out for season, the Texans had already given up, I think, the second most touchdowns in football. I think it's 26 on the year. And like, when you look at the list of quarterbacks they've played, they haven't really played the top-notch quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, they played Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams. They played Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had 17 completions and 4 passing touchdowns.
He's had a really good year, too. He's been way over his own head, so that's been a pleasant surprise.
Trevor Lawrence wasn't very good. They did play Josh Allen. They did play him extremely well. That was earlier in the season. Then they played Drake May, and Drake May 243 and 3. But like the last, let's say, 4 weeks, they've been allowing like 200. They allowed 354 to Cooper Rush, 278 to Will Levis, 277 to Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones if you combine their numbers. And if you actually watch that game, I think Brian Thomas should have had 180 yards. Like, he was wide open on a lot of these throws. Tua is going to have an opportunity to throw the ball downfield. Can the O-line of Miami protect him is a question. Can he get... Like, he hasn't really thrown downfield this year because there's been no reason to, because of the way teams play him. Will the Texans be another team that does that? Not so sure. They've been a little bit more aggressive with every quarterback. And if you're going to be aggressive with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, that's when it spells disaster. Like, this game is a game that I would full on, game stack. Both sides, you can stack it in a ton of ways. Miami's pass rush is just depleted. They just don't have the guys. As bad as the Texans O-line has been, I think this is a Miami front. Like, they didn't really get home a ton against Aaron Rodgers. They just let Rodgers probably play his best game of the entire season. And yes, they have talent there. So do the Texans. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, like CJ Stroud, they still have the guys to do it. Both sides of the ball here are I think both sides of the ball are going to have to throw to find success. And that just means a higher paced game, more plays, more volume. And that just bodes well for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tank Dell, Jonnu Smith, obviously Stroud, Nico Collins. Like, all these guys are not coming in heavily owned. Waddle, Mixon are the only guys coming in over 10%. Both Stroud and Tua aren't getting played much. Both because, Tua's at a weird price where we know he doesn't run, so he has to get there throwing 300. And Stroud, it's just, he hasn't done it all year. Can he show up for me once?
Yeah, that's the question I have is, man, like, where's Stroud at? And more importantly, when it comes to Stroud, Tank Dell, like, was he shot in the offseason?
Yes, no. He was literally shot this offseason.
So he was shot in the offseason. Did he go into witness protection after he was shot? Because I haven't seen him all year.
I think Bobby Slowick did. They don't let him run. They don't deploy him correctly that they did last year. And I think it had a lot to do with the digs and also their O-line. He was running these like 20-yard out cuts and different things that were giving you those chunk yardage plays last year. They don't have time for. Like, and also when Nico's been out, like, he's not a one. He is not a great number one wide receiver for the National Football. He is a perfect complement. Like, Nico being the X, being the guy that just bullies people, being the guy that is going to give you a lot of these just throw a screen to him, let him run type dudes. Like, that's something awesome. And also, it's kind of the effect that Waddle's gone through with Miami. You gave him a Joe Mixon. Miami, you got a running game with, Achane and Mostert throughout the years. And as a result, like, it just becomes, hey, like, we don't have the targets for you. And he didn't find a rhythm in this offense. I think off the bye week, though, at home, like, this game's just set up to be a bit more of a shootout than what people are playing it as. I'll probably get a lot of it on the 1 p.m. only. The main slate, I don't think I'm going to get too much of it just because there's a few other games that I like just slightly more than this one.
And I think Houston's trying to suppress his value to re-sign him because he was a third-round pick, so they don't get that fifth-year option on him. But speaking of conspiracies, how about we move on to the Jets and Aaron Rodgers?
This is the
These
speaking of
segues
conspiracies.
are hitting it today.
You're crushing it with the segues. Speaking of conspiracy, Aaron Rodgers is one of the highest owned quarterbacks in the slate. People are playing this Rodgers double with Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams because it was hot last week, played really well, and now you're getting a matchup where Jaguars are, highest rate of man coverage, and no, I think it's second behind the lines. Regardless, they play a lot of man. They play man against anybody. Their corners aren't very good. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, I think I'm just going to play the Jags defense. Like, I think their D-line can win here. Like, I don't think they're going to be as bad because I just don't think the Jets O-line can hold up for Rodgers. And I don't think this game shoots out. Like, it's supposed to, but I don't, not supposed to, sorry. It's very popular. It's just, it's way too popular for a game that's very fragile to me in a spot where, like, the Jaguars defense, 2,700, if they do perform extremely well, you're different from the field with it. And then on top of it, you have chalky Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams. They probably fail at their price. And then Aaron Rodgers, with all those lineups, fail with it. Like, I don't love how owned all of this is. And the one player I do like in this game, I like Parker Washington a lot. He's the under the radar play for me here. He's the guy that Evan Ingram's out. Brendan Strange doesn't get his workload. It's not how that works. The player over the middle of the field is Parker Washington now. Like, it's got to default to him. He's their slot guy. He's someone who has had comfortability with Mac Jones. DJ Reed is also out, which is a huge loss to the Jets cornerback room. I wonder if Sauce travels with Brian Thomas this week. He doesn't travel
what I was going to ask, because we're...
Yeah, I mean, it will be Sauce versus BTJ for the most part, I think. But BTJ is fine at 5,800. You can play him. I just don't love how he's getting more ownership than Tank Dell and Jalen Waddle. Like, he's very, very good. But it's Mac Jones. It's not a great Jaguars team. It's just a really weird game to have a ton of ownership following on at the moment.
The Jets' implied total is only 22 points.
Exactly.
So if you're telling me there's three touchdowns in that offense, I don't know if I'm chasing Aaron Rodgers because I got to assume at least one of those is going to a running back.
Yeah, I also don't even think they're going to score 3 touchdowns. Like, I think they.
There you go.
I think they could score 2 and kick 2 field goals. Like, to get around that, and also, I mean, I think the Jaguars win this game. Like the Jets are really bad. I know the Jaguars are really bad, but the Jets are they're both awful.
I'm not sure the Jags could stop you and I, though, from playing catch and going for 3 bills against them, right? Like, I mean, they're really bad on the back half. So I kind of wonder if Aaron Rodgers and his savvy, like maybe it's a Davante Adams. Maybe if you want to avoid Rodgers, you just take Adams as a one-off.
Yeah, no, you could definitely play these guys as one-off. It's not that Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams are bad plays. It's just they're a little bit popular for what their cost is and what the rest of the slate looks like. The chalk last week was one of the highest played quarterbacks was Will Levis against this Jaguars defense because they are really bad and yada yada. And he had 168. He got sacked twice. They dropped 3 picks. Like, obviously Rodgers is better than Will Levis, but the Jaguars the Jets offensive line is really bad. And like, I think this Jaguars D line can control this line of scrimmage and make Rodgers' life living hell.
Well, I mean, that's fair. I guess I can dig all that. Where are we at with the running backs? I'm not quite ready to hop off this one yet because it is an interesting game, and I think a lot of folks are in questions about it. So if we look at the Jets, I know Breece Hall's been nicked. Last week, feels like a year ago. Last week, we told you stay off of Braylon Allen. We got a little bit out of Isaiah Davis, which was good. Where are we at with the Jags running backs? Like, if we think they're going to win the game, is this a Bigsby, ETN? Can you line either of those guys up?
Dude, ETN looked really good last week. I can't line them up. I did, again, what I mean by looked really good, when I sparingly went over to see that game, it looked like he was running really fast. Yeah, so it wasn't that he ran for 100 yards or anything like that. Like, the touches are just so weird over there. It looked like looking at it briefly, just because my eyes told me that Breece Hall was running, or Travis Etienne was running well. And then I'm looking at the touches, and I'm like, Tank Bigsby had how many more touches than him? Like, I like Tank. I was in on Tank Bigsby. He's actually, I think, my highest owned player in best ball this year, behind, I think, Jamar Chase, which is pretty fun. Jamar Chase is actually in 68% of the teams that I had advanced. So if Jamar Chase has a crazy playoff run, I'll be. Hey, he was my wide receiver 1. You knew it. I made it very clear. You couldn't take him. I was taking him over McCaffrey in best ball. I was in.
I was telling people not to draft McCaffrey at all, so we're there.
It's true. We were both in on that one. That one's sad. But looking at the Jaguars, I can't play these backfields. They just don't have enough touches needed to win you a GPP. Like, I remember you talking about Isaiah Davis last week, and I was like, hey, he just doesn't have the role to do it. He did score. I think he had, 14? But when you look at the grand scheme of things, yeah, no, he looked good. He's fast. Like, he's fast, he's healthy, and he runs well. That's a combination of great things at this time of the year. This time of the year would fit well with the next game we're going to get into. But as far as these games, like, it's just not enough volume to pay off in a GPP.
So the touches are too spread out. Let's go ahead and talk about another huge spread. Let's go to the Ravens and the Giants in New York / New Jersey. Shout out Jersey here.
Yeah. This is a game for me that you could play in two ways. And if you're going to play it, and it's Lamar Jackson puts on an MVP show. It's Lamar in New York. He could put on a show passing the ball and running. He could put on a performance where it's just a beat down. Like, Lamar against the NFC in general dominates. I think the only loss he's had is the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he just pretty much goes out there and dominates every NFC team. And now you're telling me they're going to score 30. And you're telling me there's two ways to approach this. They have 3 games in 11 days. Do you want to use your Derrick Henry card on this one? Like, you're playing a Lions or Giants team that their entire D tackle room is destroyed right now. Like, every single Dexter Lawrence isn't playing. Raheem Noches, Nonches, I forgot his last name. He's not playing. They have like 6 interior D tackles on IR. Oh, by the way, Bobby Okereke, guy they paid a bunch of money, not playing. Not going to suit up for this game because why would you? Why would you want to suit up to play this one? Derrick Henry is 20% owned, and if you told me Derrick Henry was going to get his normal workload, I'd be all in. But when I'm thinking strategically for Baltimore, they got Pittsburgh in one of these games, I believe, in the next 11 days, and you just can't keep losing to them. Lamar has to beat Tomlin at some point. He just is not been capable of doing it when Tomlin actually, has his guys at quarterback. And do you workhorse Derrick Henry? And if you don't, then this is a spot where Lamar Jackson's 1% owned. Like, I've seen Lamar Jackson go out to teams and just, I'm going to give you 90 rushing or 100 rushing. I can give you 270, 280 passing. I don't even care if you guys play offense because I'm Lamar Jackson and I can play like an MVP, and I'm going to try to do it in New York when it's bright lights it's a 1 p.m. game, but it's still New York. It's still
the sun will be out. It'll be bright. It'll be fine.
It will be bright. It will be fine. But it's just the spot where he's just not owned at all. And I'm like, Derrick Henry's 20% owned. Like, Lamar can steal those touchdowns. And also, Derrick Henry might not play the second half if they fucking are up by 20. Justice Hill plays enough as is. It's a gross game for Derrick Henry to be 20%.
I'm happy to take Lamar and the defense because I think there's turnovers here. Drew Lock throwing interceptions seems like a very real scenario here.
No, Tommy DeVito's starting.
Or I'm sorry, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Mr. DeVito, but like
it's my brother.
Well, I think you could go. You could go Lamar and Mark Andrews. Andrews is 41. I'm just imagining the tight end position is always
Lamar
pretty bad.
taking off a rushing touchdown. Yeah, I see. Yeah, no. Here's what I'm looking at. I'd rather have Baltimore's defense than the offense. I think a lot of folks are going to chase down the stacks here and be disappointed in the pass catcher because Flowers, Andrews, Henry, Hill. Don't we have Keaton Mitchell back now too?
I think he's playing, but
Likely
he's not really playing.
3
No,
games in
yeah.
11
I mean,
days.
I think I'd still take.
I gotta believe some guys.
I would take
catch
Lamar
some...
with Andrews. So that's it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, and I can't
Like
fault
that's it.
anybody
That's
who
the
wants to do
only.
that, but
No, you could run Lamar naked. Like you could just play Lamar and just continue on with your day for sure. I don't think I'd play it with the defense because at 3,900 on defense, you're gonna have to score touchdowns on defense and not just get turnovers. So if you score touchdowns, then Lamar is losing out. Like, but yeah, Lamar can put up. Like Lamar might play a game where he puts up 290 total yards, where or maybe less, say 250, and he still puts up 5 to 6 touchdowns. Like it would not surprise. Like he was just in the middle of the MVP race. Josh Allen has one game while he's on a bye week and lost to Philly. It's like, yep, you're done. See ya, bud. You have no chance there.
yeah. You see, I love the idea of Lamar, but the defense is really the music to my ears right now. It feels like this Giants team's going to turn the football over. They're not going to score a ton, and I'm sure you're paying up for that defense, but a top end defense is still cheaper than some of the best tight ends out there, some of the best running backs. There's plenty of other options at wide receiver, running back to build around. This is a spot where, I don't think it's impossible, but you could have a defense that scores damn near 20. I
No,
mean,
that's fair. I don't hate the defense.
and so yeah, so give me the defense. I love Lamar. I'm with you on the Andrews thing. I probably won't stack Lamar if I get him, and that's simply because I'm banking on Lamar running in a touchdown. I'm banking on him kind of vulturing some of those touches, and I expect 3 games, 11 days. We're going to see a lot of guys getting kind of a controlled workload. If they get up by 17 or something, or if they get up even by 2 touchdowns, we might see a few more reps for Likely, a few more reps for some of these other guys. Keep those dudes fresh as like that Pittsburgh game comes up and so on. But, despite how tuned in we are on that game and how many points we expect to get scored, let's move to Music City. Let's go talk about the Bengals and the Titans. You got a former OC going against his old team here. How much does that matter in this matchup?
He knows the holes of this defense, and there's quite a lot of them in Cincinnati right now. Like they're bad. Cincinnati is a very, very bad team. I also think that the Titans are in a really weird spot here where I think next year Will Levis ends up being their starter unless they can convince like a vet to come over, but I don't think they should. I think that they should not let him get another season because he necessarily, earned the unquestioned starter role. But I think they should be that team that continues building within their roster because there are pieces here. And they just got to keep going and churning it out. Defensively, though, they are so hit and miss. I do not understand what they do defensively. They gave up 280 rushing yards 2 weeks ago, and then they played very well against the Jaguars, and they played well before they played the Commanders. So, like, right now, Chase Brown's coming in 25% off. He's 7,200. I think he's the most volatile chalk on this slate where he didn't run well against Dallas. He caught the ball well because guess what? Micah Parsons was rushing and Joe Burrow had to check down a lot and had to take advantage of Eric Kendricks and DeMario Overshown going down in that game. And in this game, it's like, do I think Titans edge rushers can get that done like Micah? No. They haven't really done it all season long. And the Titans corners are, without L'Jarius Sneed, these corners are bad. Like, these guys are not good at all. Brian Thomas torched them in the second half. All his work was in the second half, by the way. He had 0 in the first half. And, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, both of them are great plays this weekend. Jamar Chase, obviously, a little bit difficult because he's that 8,400 price tag. And by default, you have to like Joe Burrow. And I think if you play this game, if you play the Joe Burrow side, I think Tony Pollard should be in pretty much all of your lineups as long as he's good to go, which I think he will be because this Bengals defense is very, very bad. And I look at this team right now, and you can game stack this. You can get multiple different pieces from this game. But it just comes down to the salary of a lot of these guys. Like Burrow 73 and Chase 84. That's just too expensive for me to get to. I look at these spot here, and there's other better stacks. Like we talked about Lamar, and Lamar and Zay Flowers, I think, are cheaper than Joe Burrow. Yeah, they're about 1,200, 1,300 cheaper than Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and it's implied 5 more points. And Lamar has rushing ability. Joe Burrow does not. Like, it's a spot where I don't know if I'm going to get a ton of stacks here, but I do like this game. As far as Will Levis, I'm not playing him. I just can't. I know how bad the Bengals defense is. I just can't get behind playing Will Levis. I do like Pollard and Ridley. Both of them are the pathway for the Titans to make this a shootout. I think the Chase Brown chalk is probably where I would draw the line. I'm probably not going to be overweight. I may play a lineup or two, but I just can't imagine I play him at 7,200, man. That's like, imagine saying that before the season. A 7,200 Chase Brown is going to be chalk.
Yeah. That's no good. I mean, hey, I'm all in on the Bengals side. I'm happy to go after Burrow and Chase and Higgins. Like, give me those guys because you could always count on them for being legit. At any given week, they can pop off, right? But yeah, I'm not in on the Tennessee side. Same thing. I'm not really there on Levis. It's the guy eats too much mayonnaise and there's entirely too many unpeeled bananas in that guy's diet. Something's not right there. But why don't we go ahead and leave this one where it lies and go head to the desert? Arizona is hosting New England. We've got, by your notes here, I'm checking out the show notes, and you're saying strangely owned game. What makes it so strange?
Like, a lot of ownership's going here. Kyler Murray is the highest owned quarterback on the slate. He's the only quarterback getting over 10% ownership right now. Marvin Harrison's like 15% owned at 55. Trey McBride's owned. James Conner's owned at 20%. The Cardinals are so cheap this week that everybody is just playing the Cardinals because the Patriots are really bad. But it's like, this game's just like, it has a high over under at 47 for this week. It's a little bit more in the previous game, but I don't see it. I don't see this game like shooting out. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that it shoots out. Like, if Christian Gonzalez suits up, can you trust Kyler to find Marvin Harrison in those one-on-one matchups? I can't. Like, I haven't seen it all year. Like, well, I saw it once against the Rams for the guy that they cut that's now on the Ravens. I believe Tre'Davious White's over there. But it's just, it's a strange game to me that I'm scared of because, like, can James Conner run well against the Patriots? Probably. Trey McBride have a big game? Definitely. He's very capable of doing it against anybody. He doesn't find the end zone for God knows why, but he could have 12 for 120 because he's just really good. Can Marvin Harrison at 5,500 catch the 50-yard touchdown? Yeah, he's obviously a very talented player. I still love Marvin Harrison, but like, it's just, they're banking so much on name value. Like, if you just took their production week to week, you would not be playing this team. But since it's Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., it's getting a lot of ownership. And I think I'm just going to stay away. Are you feeling the same about this one?
I'm actually in the mode of New England has progressively gotten better since the soft talk a few weeks ago. And that defense has gotten a little bit tougher and a little bit tougher. And I expect this is going to be one of those games where they're going to be really out to stuff the run and play tough. And they're going to let Gonzalez try to just shadow up Harrison and see if they can take him out and force Kyler Murray to win with everybody else. Kyler, frankly, not a uniquely talented enough quarterback to make those kinds of plays. I think New England wins this game straight out, and I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if Drake May puts up more fantasy points than Kyler. So the apprehension on all of that is definitely causing me to back out. If I'm really feeling froggy, maybe I'll play this game on the New England side just because it'll be so low owned that it would be fun to be contrarian, because if you hit it, it's a big hit. But I'm not going to go and soak a huge amount of my bankroll into that.
Yeah, no, I like Drake May can be good. He's been really good, man. Like, he's one of the quarterbacks that I absolutely love this upcoming year. Didn't Jabril Peppers return too, right? I think, he returned in week 13.
He's back, yeah.
So, yep. You have Duggar, you have Peppers. Like, even Trey McBride's matchup's not great. Like, those are not the safeties and linebackers that I would want to be covered. Like, those aren't the mismatch guys. It's just that's what I'm saying. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a game that it has a good over-under, but, like, I feel the same about this game as the next game we're going to do, which, the Colts Broncos getting a little horse action here, but, like, these games feel the same.
I had a great segue for that too.
What was the segue?
Man, I was ready.
Come on.
Man, I was ready. Dang, I was going to say, all right, let's leave New England and Arizona in the desert. It's a mirage. We're going to go north of the Four Corners, Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Let's talk about Indy going to Denver.
That's a good segue. The segues you've been on point with this week, it seems like that is
practicing.
Crazy.
I've been self-scouting. I see my weaknesses. I'm trying to get better. Here's where we are.
No, that's perfect. But, like, so what I'm saying is I see this game similar to that Patriots Cardinals game where it's like the Broncos have been a better defense, without a doubt.
Sure.
Undoubtedly been very good. Anthony Richardson is a quarterback that is that crazy runner that just launches the ball, doesn't necessarily know where it's going half the time, but hey, it's going somewhere. And in Denver, he could probably throw it 80. Like, would not surprise me if he went out there and did it. And I'm like, he's cheaper than Kyler. His weapons are cheaper than Kyler's. He runs. He's supposed to be playing from behind, and he's not anywhere near the ownership. Like, I don't love Anthony Richardson this week. It's not what I'm getting at. I'm just getting at the point that I don't understand how Kyler's so as far as this game goes, just to get back to reality here, I like Bo Nix here. He's underowned. You just go Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and you kind of forget it. I don't think you need to go anywhere else. I don't care that Marvin Mims had a huge touchdown last game. Just they rotate so much, and it's the frustrating part of Sean Payton that I think I've just accepted, and it makes sense schematically. Like, Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims individually do not do everything the same, but they're both speed guys that can get vertical quickly. And what that does for Vele and Cortland Sutton is allow them to work these intermediate portions of the field, like it's Michael Thomas in the Saints, and you had the Traquan Smiths and the Kenny Stills, and these guys that just they would give you that splash play that you think that they are a capable deep threat in the NFL, and you wouldn't see it for 5-6 weeks, and then they do it again. You'd be like, whoa, where was, like, I remember when Traquan Smith was the guy who caught the 70-yard touchdown for Drew Brees to break the passing touchdown record. That was supposed to be a big moment. It's Traquan Smith. That's like a very random thing. As a UCF guy, like, I watched Traquan Smith practice. I was able to be there with Traquan. Like, he's a very talented player coming out of college. Obviously, he got picked probably a little too high, but it was a good time period for us. But for the Saints, he was a better real-life football player than he was that fantasy asset that anybody wanted him to be. And when I look at the Denver Broncos, like, outside of Bo Nix and Sutton, none of those guys are assets for fantasy. Not the running back room.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up. Didn't Denver also just cut Greg Dulcich, the tight end?
Yeah, they cut him because he's just, I mean, their tight end room he wasn't really playing. And it's like, how?
I know.
Well, because they're giving Lucas Krill the ball, which is why I want Tyler Warren this team. Like, I don't want him.
I don't want him there.
Well, I mean, he would probably be default though too. Like, he could be that what's that tight end that played for a long time? Not Jimmy Graham. I'm talking about the one, Jared Cook. Jared Cook had like 100 target year with the Saints, right? With Breeze. I think his first year with the Saints, he had that 100 target year. I know he did with the Raiders too. We'll look it up.
He's had a couple of random pop years. I remember him as a Titan for some reason. I think that's where I mostly remember Jared Cook.
Yeah, that was early in his year. He did have 100 targets as the Raiders, but then he got signed by the Saints, and in 14 games, he was technically a Pro Bowler. I don't know if that actually meant something, but he caught 9 touchdowns. Best year of his career. That's like 700 yards and 9 touchdowns, 500 yards and 7 touchdowns, and is at age 32 and 33. But yeah, so
no
as far as
Allen, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, getting back to DFS. Colts the Colts our offense line is banged up bad. It's awful. They're not going to be able to run the ball. Vance Joseph won't let it happen. Vance Joseph is one of the best DCs right now in football because of the league has gotten younger at quarterback, and a lot of them don't see blitz as well. And he blitzes quite a bit, and this is a spot where Anthony Richardson, I don't think, sees blitz as well. From my previous knowledge, I feel like he just takes hits. Like he's a goofy dude, and their O-line
similar
is just
eyesight
so
to what Jameis had.
Oh,
his eyesight's really similar to what Jameis had. I don't know if he hasn't actually had LASIK. He just can't see the field like Jameis early in his career. I mean,
yeah, but defense, Broncos D at 3,200 is easy to play. Bo Nix is fine. Portland Sutton's good. Other than that, I don't think they're so sad. For some reason, Josh Downs is kind of like from some people, but I can't imagine Anthony Richardson throws the ball well.
I can't see it. I'm out on that game. It's a situation where I can't get behind anything with Richardson unless I'm taking him as a runner. That's it. But let's go ahead and run away from Denver and get out to the Motor City. We've got Buffalo is in Detroit. What's our ownership look like here? I need to know why you put a note here. Why is nobody playing this game? I left out the explicit language you put in the notes. So take me through it.
Josh Allen is in a 54-point over-under. He is the underdog. He is 8,500. That is a hefty price to get to. 3% up. I don't get it. I don't understand. People may say, like, well, he's 8,500. It's hard to get to. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow is 2,100 more expensive than Amari Cooper and Josh Allen. Amari Cooper's 5,300. He played 30. He was on the field for 37 snaps. 14 targets last week. The Bills haven't really been able to run the ball. The Lions pretty much are only good at defending the run right now. They're like Josh Jacobs scored 3 touchdowns, a lot of goal line stuff. It wasn't great running. The Packers had a lot of success throwing the ball downfield once they decided to start throwing the ball downfield. And Amari Cooper is their best downfield guy. Matt Collins has made some plays. Khalil Shakir has made some plays over the middle and stuff. But I still think it's Amari Cooper as their best pure route runner on the outside perimeter down the field. Keon Coleman's coming back here. If Dalton Kincaid comes back and actually plays, I really like him in this matchup. I'm scared for his knees. Kirby Joseph has a thing of taking knees out in a guy coming off a knee injury. It's a scary play. It's a scary play, but you at this point in time as a tight end, you have to be aware of it. Like it is how he hits you, and it is legal in the NFL to hit someone like that. Like it sucks. It's not fun, but the NFL told safety stop going high. So he started going low, and he doesn't. It's like everybody, calls him a dirty player and he's malicious. And I think that's just like an underlying code in the NFL. Like you don't hit low, like you don't take out my knees type thing where you're trying to end careers. Yeah. And Kirby, I don't think that's just, but also fighting kneecaps and everything. Dan Campbell, like he's a coach. He's a freaking hard-nosed football coach. Like he's gonna hit you hard. And if he's a 6 foot 215 safety trying to hit a 6'5", 245 tight end, like I don't know, man. He's gonna hit you low. Like it's just you gotta know it. You gotta hurdle. White tight ends love hurdling. It's their favorite thing to do. Every time they catch the ball in open space. If you look at Michael Mayer, I think tried 4 of them last week. It was something ridiculous. Every time I looked over the screen, he's trying to jump over someone. But
he's tired of Brock Bowers getting all the love, man. He had to get on SportsCenter somehow,
But getting back to Josh Allen, I don't understand how he's alone. I'm going to play him again. He obviously had 6 touchdowns last week. He could have a regression week. Fun fact, he's probably going to. There's no way you just go 6 touchdowns back to back. But
gets 5 and it's a regression week.
Yeah, I don't really care like that phrase, but the Lions defense is so beat up. They have no pass rush right now. They are just blitzing. And you're telling me if your blitz gets home, it means Josh Allen running? Sign me up. Like that is perfect for Josh Allen. Oh, and then you're like, hey, well, what about, the Rams offense scored a ton of points on them. The Lions can do that. Yes. The Lions can literally look at the Rams game plan and say, we do everything they just did. We could literally run the same plays. Because Ben Johnson, guess what? On St. Brown, you could be Puka or you could be Cooper Kupp. Whatever you want to be on this week, you can do. Demarcus Robinson's deep shots that kept being defensive pass interference, JMO, go for it. Maybe we connect on a few of those. Sam Laporta is obviously much better tight end than anything the Rams got right now. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are much more explosive than what the Rams backfield does. And it's just a game where you can stack in so many ways. And Khalil Shakir and Amon-Ra coming in owned, both over 10%. Josh Allen's not owned. Amari Cooper's not owned. Dalton Kincaid's not owned. Keon Coleman's not owned. I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is owned at all. Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is coming in at 4%. This is a game where the spark is there. This is, the Lions are a team that they just take every week personal, it feels like. And I feel like everybody thinks the Bills are more of a Super Bowl contender than the Lions. I mean, maybe not now, but I feel like the Lions think that. I think the Lions are coming to this game like we're the underdogs. It's like, no, Vegas literally has you 2.5-point favorites, bud.
Yeah.
You could pull this out for me, but it's a game that I love stacking. I also don't even mind going the Jared Goff route. You could play Goff and go to Amon-Ra and JMO and play Amari Cooper, and Josh Allen can have that big game. But if it's not 3 rushing touchdowns and it's just 4 passing, Goff can keep pace with that. Rasul Douglas is out too. Both starting safeties aren't practicing for the Bills. Their secondary is getting depleted. The only thing they got going is their front seven. The Lions can look at this game and air it out as well.
So what about, I didn't hear you mention Laporta. We mentioned dang near every other player, at least pass catchers. Laporta was the one name that to me was a notable omission here.
He just is in a weird spot for this game. That's the one strength I think the Bills have.
You just hate Laporta. You just don't like Big Ten tight ends. You hate Iowa. I don't.
At 4,400 though, 4,400 I could get behind. You could go Josh Allen. You could go Josh Allen, Amon-Ra, Amari Cooper, and Laporta. Because if Goff throws 3 touchdowns, but then Allen's playing, I want Allen in hero ball mode, man. That's what I was banking on last week. I was like, this is the first week where I feel like they can be down. And if they're down, great. And they were down 17 at half. And Josh Allen just put on a show. And this is the same spot where they could easily be down 14 at half. And Josh Allen could easily continue to put on, hey, I'm the MVP of the league. This is why.
No, hey, I'm in. Look, I think I'm actually going to be stacking both sides of this game.
Yeah.
I'll have lineups going both ways. Yeah, 100%. Nice. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Let's head back out to the coast. We're going to go back out to LA here. Tampa Bay at the Chargers. Herbert, man, this guy's kind of a mystery right now. He's been nicked. We don't know where he's at right now. We know Ladd McConkey's been nicked up. What's your confidence level with those guys and going against albeit a bad Tampa Bay secondary, but they played better last week? Is this secondary starting to rebound?
So, with Herbert, the last time he suffered this ankle injury was before the season. And when they came out, they were a run-first team. They were smash-mouth football. They did not care about being this pass-centric offense. And then he gets then he gets healthy while playing, which is crazy. And they start throwing the ball 35 times a game. And now he's hurt again, and it's this is a spot. If you told me with confidence he was good to go, 95% Justin Herbert here, I would be 100%, not 100%ing, but I would be very in on a Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey, Stone Smart stack. Stone Smart, look the athletic tight end that you want, the Tommy Tremble, he's gonna be forgotten. They're not gonna prepare for him in a way of preparation. It's gonna be Ladd, it's gonna be Josh Palmer, it's gonna be QJ. And then I would just be running back, Mike Evans, and maybe taking a stab at one of the running backs. I did call the Rachaad White week last week, weirdly enough. I felt like Bucky wasn't going to be 100%, and he definitely was not. I think Rachaad White is a decent play as well if Bucky is out in this game. But if you don't know if Herbert's 100%, even with Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal, they could run the ball a lot again. And if they do, it's going to be inefficient. It's going to be ugly. And then you're going to be looking at a game where both sides defensively can limit each other. The game has a healthy total of 45, but like it could be a lot of field goals. It could be, some turnovers with short drives that, Sean Tucker takes a touchdown, or, Bo Keefe scores a touchdown because the freaking Tampa Bay got to the 2 and decided to throw it to him. Like,
helps no one, Jordan. I don't love
no,
those.
it just doesn't. It just feels like if you told me Herbert was good to go, I'd be all in. 5,900 Herbert against the Bucs. I played Bryce Young against the Bucs with confidence. Like Vlad McConkey and Herbert way better than what Carolina's got going. And I would if Vlad, I think, is probably the best play on this game, because even if Herbert's limited and he throws it 20 times, I think 8 of those targets go to Vlad. like that game against the Falcons, he was just like, yeah, you are the guy. I don't care. We're going here. This is what we're doing.
A little bit of a homecoming for Vlad, too, in that one.
Yeah, Mike Evans is also a good play. I didn't mention him. Jalen McMillan stepped up finally. Those touchdowns were huge for him. He looked like there's rookies that you could see getting that just confidence boost that they kind of needed because it just hadn't worked out. Jalen McMillan's not playing the position he's meant to play. He wasn't built into the Godwin role preseason, and they didn't change it when he went down. They just put Sterling Shepard in it, which sucks, but it's besides the fact. But last week against, who did they play? The Raiders, right? Yeah, they played the Raiders. He had 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. I almost played him. Fun fact. I almost convinced myself to play him last week when building one of the Josh Allen builds, because I needed him to go from Garendo to Saquon, I think, or something. It was a weird build that I was building. Would not have won. Very happy I did what I did.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we leave the beach? I think this game for me, it's a little too much. It's a little too wonky. There's enough other teams to stack, enough other games to go after. I don't think going the Tampa Bay Charger route here has the kind of electricity that we would want to see from the Bolts. So I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and fly out of there down to Philadelphia? They bring the Steelers to town. What is going on in that locker room right now? Why do A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts hate each other? They don't like each other. They love each other. What in the wide world of sports is going on there?
I do not understand why Nick Sirianni can't just keep things together. I just don't. I don't understand.
Thrives on
I don't
chaos.
get it. He just has to create something. Something has to be created, and their players just easily eat into that nonsense. Brandon Graham has no business going out into the media, and they are 11-2. They have a guy
veteran guy.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm saying. Like 25, he's not even 26-year-old dude. This is a third. Yeah, he's a veteran guy, 30-something-year-old player. He's 35 now. This is a guy that's about to retire. Why is he the one out there stirring shit up? Pardon my language, but what in the world?
Yeah, and the other thing is, the passing offense is bad. Jalen Hurts has not been great. This isn't they are 11-2 because of Saquon Barkley and Vic Fangio.
Well, yeah, he's been reverse hurdling people. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's been incredible. I love watching him play. It's so much fun watching. Yeah, it's also, why would you want to pay Saquon Darnell Mooney money? That's insane.
I can't imagine why I'd want to pay him.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pay my prize possession. But yeah, Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown for 200 yards in 3 weeks. They're 3-0 in those 3 games. He has not had 200 yards. They've also thrown the ball 22, 19, and 21 times because Kellen Moore isn't dumb. Kellen Moore is like, hey guys, how many yards we're getting per carry? How many rushing yards is Saquon getting? We're gonna go there. What's the fucking point?
The record, baby.
It does create controversy, and I will say the last time A.J. Brown played the Steelers, they didn't have T.J. Watt, so take this for the grain of salt, because having this success passing usually doesn't come with T.J. Watt on the field. A.J. Brown still had 6 for 153 and 3 touchdowns. He did that in the first half, I believe, of that game. I think it was the first quarter of the game. I
Wasn't
remember
it right after the
stacking.
trade?
No, it was
Like he was traded on
the year.
draft day. It was like beginning of the next. It was that first season he's there.
Yes, it was the first season he was there. Yes, it was the middle of the season though. It was after he had already.
Oh, okay, I thought it was
gone
early. Okay.
No, it was
Okay.
that stretch
I
of
thought he was
games
early
that
in the
he
year for some reason.
had where he, I think he played the Titans in that stretch too. It was something along the lines. Let me find the exact.
Pretty sure
Yeah,
he
he played
the Titans.
Yeah, it was. But the Steelers was the best game he had all year. 10 targets, 156 and 3. And I'm telling you right now, let me find the exact. Yeah, he hit 3 touchdowns at halftime.
That's nuts.
Like,
I don't know if he repeats that. I'm gonna say.
oh, he can't. I mean,
No, I'm good.
repeating it stuff, but he is not owned. Saquon is getting a lot of ownership. AJ Brown hasn't dropped in price. Like, it's a weird. I mean, the Eagles just don't throw enough to pay off $8K, but you know, Saquon is coming in a little owned. Other than that, I don't see the Steelers scoring.
For
Saquon.
You don't see them
I can't.
scoring
I can't
at all. 0 shutout. You think it's a shutout?
I don't know how they score. Like, I don't care that they scored against the Bashir. By the way, I don't care that they scored against the Browns last week without Pickens. They had 260 yards of offense. Like, that's not good.
No,
Like,
you're right.
That was a bad
It's
Browns
not.
defense. They had 260 on offense.
I just wonder if there's a shot play there for Calvin Austin. I wonder if we can find a couple plays to get guys like Freiermuth and Jalen Warren worked out. Because Russ has still played really well. Like he's for what we've seen this year versus what we saw in Denver and even at the end of his Seattle tenure, this is like a reborn Russell Wilson. Like anytime you've got a savvy quarterback and he's playing at a reasonably high clip, and he's got good confidence going, I feel like they're going to find a way to score, right? Like I can't imagine they get blanked here. I'm not in on Najee. I think he probably gets, probably shut out. But
they can get. I think they can get like if they're getting anything, I think it's Pat Freiermuth.
Okay.
Because
no Mike Williams.
I don't think he can get open. Like I don't think he can get open, and I don't think he's good enough to make those contested catches at this point. Like. First off, Quinyon Mitchell's unbelievable. He's been one of the best rookie corners. Cooper Jean's been really good. Like, first, another thing, Cordell Patterson's getting touches in this offense because it's Arthur Smith. Like, Mike Williams is probably going to barely play. Like, and also, the Steelers are another team that will be playing 3 games in 11 days. There's a spot where, like, if you're getting blown out, you should just, start rotating. Like this is an NFC opponent. You have the Ravens on Saturday, and then the Chiefs on Wednesday. Your entire season for seeding comes down to those 2 games. This game against Philly is a pride thing, and yada yada. It ain't anything important on the season.
In-state rivalry.
Yeah, like the Battle of Pennsylvania.
Steelers get up for this game. Yeah, I really think the Steelers actually get up for this game. This seems like the kind of game Mike Tomlin gets his guys fired up for. That defense comes out and it doesn't score as high as people think. I bet you this comes down to a possession in the fourth quarter that tips one way or the other, and maybe it's a 10-point or 14-point ball game when it's over, but it's because of a junk score at the end of the game that it's a lot closer than it really looked. And I got that. Call it it's a gut feeling here. I have no data to back this up. But these rivalry games, divisional games, they always kind of they always play a lot tighter than Vegas seems to give them credit for. So while I'm with you on Philly, I'd rather stack that side of the game. I wouldn't sleep on the Pittsburgh side. I wouldn't be afraid if we were going to go. I forget which game it was earlier. We talked about grabbing a few players. I think it was New England. Grabbing a few of their guys because no one's going to play it. If you're playing in a $1 or a $3 tournament, you got a couple bucks in your bankroll, like. Yeah, go stack up some Steelers because no one else is going to do it. If it happens to hit, you're going to be the only one with those guys.
I think
and that's where it's like,
if you play a Steeler, Steelers EST at 2,800, that's the way I'd go. That's their path to keeping this close.
Right.
They've had 3 turnovers in 4 straight games. They've had a turnover in every game since week 5. one, two, three, four, five, six, 6 games with 3 turnovers in the game since week 5. So, like, I could go that. I could get behind going Steelers DST, and I don't think you need to play anything else. I don't think you need to go to, like, a Jalen Warren or any of those guys. Jalen Warren's run really well, but Cordell Patterson gets touches in this offense. Like, and it works. My buddy's a Steelers fan. I watch him every week, just about to throw his hat through the TV. And then, like, Cortland, I think it was against the Chargers, I believe it was. It was a 1-score game at the time. And it was like 3rd and 9, I think it was. And the Steelers, need to. Yeah, that's what it was. It was. It was. Steelers got the ball back with 4:59 in the game. Najee ran for 4 yards, caught a pass for -2. Chargers called their first timeout. It's 3rd and 8, and Cordell Patterson is in the game, and he's going to lose it. They run an outside zone the same way that Miami hands the ball off to Devon Achane. They give it to Cordell Patterson, and he got 14 yards on 3rd and 8. And then he iced the game. He was the player that iced the game, which is just... It's the Steelers' way of doing things, and Arthur Smith way of doing things mixed with Mike Tomlin's black magic, and scary stuff is happening there. I will say, for those watching, hopefully you stayed to the end. Obviously, when we start talking black magic and crazy stuff, we're talking about the Steelers or the Kansas City Chiefs with Taylor Swift and all the things that she has brought to them. But they've had 3 different kickers kick game-winning field goals this year. I don't care what anybody tells me. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't happen in football. It's not allowed to happen because nobody's allowed to have 3 kickers in 1 year and all 3 of them be a reason they won. Justin Tucker's the reason the Ravens have lost pretty much all their games. So let's get something to make sense. I will have the main slate up probably tomorrow. I'm still working through some things. Obviously, you guys probably could tell with some of the games. Iffy, but for the most part, hopefully you learned a thing or two. Hopefully Jeff swayed you with his beautiful transitions, going from game to game, even though I ruined one of his favorite ones on this slate. Jeff,
Man.
Enjoy the show.
Oh, dude, this was fun. I mean, I love doing this. I love getting together. I love chatting ball. I mean, of all the people I talk ball with, obviously, if you're not my favorite, you're my 1A. And so you're right at the top. But, I'm hoping that everybody who's tuned in enjoyed it. I know we had David chatting in looking for some lineup help. Thanks for watching the show, David. Appreciate you, brother. But, man, I'm ready to go win some money on Sunday. I'm doing my best to not misunderstand your takes this week. I really dropped the ball on the Charbonnet thing. That's my bad. I'm gonna do better. I'm always endeavoring to do slightly better. But yeah, man, all I hope is that as you go into your playoffs this week and you go into your DFS lineups, they are who you thought they were. Don't let them off the hook.
Yeah, man, dude. Playoff week is always fun. Funny enough, the playoffs that I've made it in, I did not make it in every league. I'm not one of those people. I think I went 3 of 6 this year. In the 3 leagues that I did, I am sharing a bye with you in one of them. And in 2 others, I am also on a bye because it seems like when I make the playoffs, I find myself getting that bye week, which is always nice in this time of the year. If you had Cooper Kupp hurt you this week, there's a number for that. I'm pretty sure. You just got to go find it. I did see a funny graphic of him wearing a FanDuel t-shirt with Deebo Samuel, which is just a great thing to see with how they played last night. Jeff can attest that Deebo dropping his slant for a touchdown probably costed him a few zeros. Yeah, few zeros.
It cost me $3,000.
Yeah, that's just sickening. I feel you. I had a great weekend. 5 more yards from Amari Cooper, 11 more from Garendo. Guy that he definitely just got his foot stepped on and thought he broke it. I don't know if you saw that report from Schefter and the way he framed it. I was so frustrated. I was like, that's so annoying. He definitely just had PTSD with his foot injury because he played well against Rams. The blocking wasn't there, and he's not a guy that can survive without blocking, but I thought he looked fine. He looked explosive.
Yeah, and all the early rain really kind of messed that field up. It's tough when you're in pregame, it's not really raining, and then it starts raining pretty hard all through the first half because the field, they play on a natural turf there, so it gets really wet and sloppy. So these guys were constantly having to change out spikes. It was tough getting footing, and that's why, Purdy looked bad. The receivers were dropping balls. Juwan Jennings uncharacteristically had 3 drops, and they were bad ones. They were right in both hands, and that's what are you gonna do?
No, yeah, for sure. And also, last minute tip for me for this week's slate. The field is playing a lot of players in the 6K. It's very difficult to beat balanced builds, I think. Like, this week, a lot of people are just going to be playing the 6K player, the 6K player, and that's why a lot of the guys that are, fitting into the lineup at quarterback are going to be the Jameis Winstons, the Bryce Young, the Levis, Kyler at 6K. A lot of these sub 6 or lower quarterbacks will be highly owned, and also the tight end position is the one that people are punting. You have, with David Njoku is out, which to be determined. Jordan Atkins at 2,700 becomes a popular play. Stone Smart at 2,600 is going to be very popular as well. If David Njoku is active, Stone Smart's going to even be more popular at his price tag. The field is going balanced this week, which means punting tight end and going cheap at quarterback is the way they're going to build. I will be going expensive at quarterback, which you'll see in my main slate article, and you probably have seen throughout the show tonight. Hopefully, Josh Allen brings it home again for me. That'd be cool. But if it's Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't be too mad either. Just means I get to add a different jersey to the collection this week.
If it's Josh Allen again, do you go get the white jersey?
No, I have to go. I have to get someone else in the lineup. I'd have to get an Amari Cooper or a Kincaid. Or if it repeated like last week, I would have gotten Puka. Like I would have gotten Puka.
All right.
That's how
I think people are probably getting bored.
Hey man, that's true. But we've been an hour at 30 at this. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good night and a good one on a Friday night. See ya.